Welcome, this is Stefani Dawn, the Editor-in-Chief for Common Climber, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. Today we are doing an interview with Dave Barnes. He's the Assistant Editor for Common Climber based out of Hobart, Tasmania, so on the other side of the world. You're even on a different day. It's the 15th there.
We are.
Yeah. Dave is a climber and a talented writer. This July 2021, Dave is releasing his first book titled The Red Curtain: Climbing Expedition to Mars 2043. So we've been receiving questions from our readers for Dave about his book, and we're going to get some of those answered here. So I feel like let's just begin with the basics. Give us a quick 30-second or so snapshot of what this book is about.
This book is a climbing book. It's like any other mountaineering book, any other big war story, but it's set on Mars. And it's set in the very near future. And it's about a very small team of highly skilled climbers who are tasked to go to Mars to find a geological sample that could save Earth. Could save Earth from catastrophes that we're actually starting to experience now with global warming, with rising sea levels, with transient populations, and all the issues that come with those. So the Earth is in a real place that it needs a circuit breaker, and that circuit breaker is found in a geology, which is found by science here on Earth. And then they follow that geology over to Mars, and then they work out a way to extract that. That way is through climbers, and that extraction will happen on a massive cliff, unlike you've ever experienced before.
Okay, we'll get into the science a little bit in a little bit. First, one of my thoughts is combining science fiction and rock climbing. Kind of seems a little bit out there. So where did you get the idea?
Well, firstly, with that question, I actually see it as an epistemology. It's like having knowledge and understanding the knowledge that we have, and then using that to create opportunities for the future based on reason. So the things that I have written are possible. This isn't science fiction in the way that we're looking at people with big antennas and, there's going to be monsters and they're going to be, finding all this weird stuff on another planet. It's not like that. Mars isn't like that. It's just an older version of Earth that's really got old, but it has a lot of the similar compositions. But the thing is that I wanted a story that was believable, and I want a story that marries the issues, as I said, of now with the skills that we have now to confront and to consolidate the science and the opportunity to come up with answers to those problems. And it's done through these climbers, and you're going to get to know their skills whilst you read the book.
Yeah, that sounds like a kind of winning combination in terms of things we can relate to, with the climate change that's happening now that we really are facing, and like you say, the science behind what you're bringing to it, and you're melding that with climbing. So I'm a climber. I can say that I don't really read science fiction. So why would I get into this book?
Well, from that epistemology, this is a reasonable look at our near future of climbing. And if you think about it, let's just use science and history for a minute. The gold rushes. The gold rushes, where did they go? They went into the mountains. Where did they find those minerals? They found them in the hills. This is no different. They're going to go to Mars and they're going to do the same. Geology is often found where it's exposed, and it's going to be exposed on a pretty big cliff. So for reasons not so much about science, but about practicalities, about getting a mineral and extracting it, you need real skills. Those miners back then in the 1850s, they had to find those skills. Well, climbers today already have the basic skills, better than the astronauts actually have, and they're going to bring those to Mars to do the job and to get that mineral back to Earth. But there's the same complexities that any climber faces when you're up on a big wall or you're really working hard to overcome a problem. They're the things about this book. This isn't a science book so much. That is the basis of the story. The real story of the climbers, the characters of those people, and what they bring and what they do and how they work together to complete this mission.
How big of a cliff are we talking about?
Yeah, it took me a while just to work that out. It's a satellite of Olympus Mons. So Olympus Mons is this massive, 10 times as high as Everest type of mountain. It's a satellite set of rocks. So I worked it out to be approximately 3,000 meters. Now, there's reasons why you can cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time in Mars, which we'll probably get to, but that's the size of the climb.
Okay.
And two climbers are a part of that party to get the thing done.
Okay. Definitely big cliffs are appealing to the climber in me.
It's two climbers like alpine climbing, where keep it small and keep it fast, because speed is a real issue with oxygen, and making sure that the less time that you're on that rock, the more time you've got to survive. So speed and efficiencies are really important. That's why the team is small.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're carrying their oxygen supply with them, so going to run out of that, I guess. Let's dive into some viewer questions here. First up, we've got a question from Jules Trio, who's out of Sydney, Australia. Jules asks, why climb on Mars and not Pluto?
Well, Pluto's a long, long way away, much further than Mars. If you had a objective and it was in your backyard, you go to that objective first, wouldn't you? You'd want to go and play in your next door neighbour's yard before you want to go to the other side of the world to play in your friend on the internet's yard. It's just, it's just easier.
I don't know. I want to go play in your backyard.
Mars is closer, and the other thing is it's warmer. It's absolutely frigid cold out there in Pluto. We are nowhere near getting there, but we do have the capacities to get to Mars. And warmth-wise, it's still frigid, but we still have the capacities to deal with that. And in the story, we deal with all the technology and what they wear as climbers to oversee those problems.
Okay, so it's close, it's warm, it's doable with our current technologies, or the technologies we're very near to attaining. Cool. Another question. Pamela Gobright, who happens to be Brad Gobright's mom. She's located here in the U.S. She asks about some specifics of climbing on Mars. What about the gravity, and how does the Mars atmosphere affect climbing?
Great questions, Pam. Gravity on Mars is around 62 to 64% of Earth. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? It's much closer than what you might think. So it's there. We can do it.
So we can do the 513.
Yeah, man, as climbers, we can do more. But the way I figured it, how it would affect climbing, it's almost like a non-event, simply because you've got to carry so much extra gear. You have to carry oxygen on this climb, 24 hours worth of oxygen. You have to have the extra equipment, even though it's nanotechnology and it's very light. You still have to make sure that you are covered from head to toe. Nothing can be exposed to keep you from the frigid temperatures, and of course other issues like radiation from the sun. Okay. Because also on Mars there's only 1% of atmosphere. Now that's a big deal. Think about that with climbing. People who climb Everest and the very high peaks, they have an understanding of this, but take that to 10 other levels. And that's what I've had to work into the story of how these climbers would deal with those issues. And it's quite complex. To simplify that in a fun narrative and to keep the story moving, I didn't draw into it, but we do cover those issues. But with 1%, how it would affect climbing of atmosphere is, think about a storm. If you have a snowstorm on Everest or a sandstorm in Nevada, if you've only got 1% of atmosphere, well, it can build really quick. It could be really large. It won't have the same power, but it could have devastating responses for climbing. So I put that into the story too. You might see a bit of Storm and a Norman going on.
Okay. Sounds like we're gonna, we're gonna learn a lot while be thinking about climbing in the context of all of these really interesting issues. Stuff that we experience as climbers here, just amplified, to however many times, like you're talking about, and doing a big wall, carrying your own, oxygen supplies and all of the regular supplies that we would need to do when climbing. So it'll be really cool to read how you work through all of that and how your characters work through all of that.
Able to use real world NASA scientists. You know, there are NASA climbers out there, and I use Juliana Horotsky-Penner, who is an American NASA geologist. She helped me work through some of these issues, the practicalities. She's actually done testing on sites with all the garb in a prolonged period to test what it would be like to gather geology on Mars. She knows this stuff. And she was my go-to from as a climbing perspective, but also as a geologist to make sure that the facts or the story has cred.
Oh, that's awesome. And we do have a question about characters a little bit further down, so we'll dip into that a little bit more. But another question I want to get to here is from Tiffany Murphy here in the U.S. She wants to know, why does a climber need to be the one to scale the cliff? Why can't they just use a drone or have an astronaut land on top of the cliff and rappel down?
Yeah, I've had friends who have said the same thing to me. So this must be a question for you guys. Well, you know, did they land on Everest, you know, at the very beginning? No. It takes time to develop the skills in order to access a climbing site. And, you know, in this one, it's precarious. You've got super technology that we're still on the very edge of developing. In 2043, this will be one of the first, if not, you know, one of the first missions. In my story, it's the 5th mission to Mars. So it's relatively new equipment. So to put that in a precarious place, with, as you know, on the top of mountains, it's rough, it's all over the place. It's just so hard to work out how to do that. You just can't just drop a person on the top, you know, in the real world. Even though we're working in Mars near future, it's very difficult. So I went with what is perceivable. And NASA is doing this too. They're already employing climbers to look into climbing on Mars, knowing that these issues will probably be coming. And so that's the way I went about it. We put the Royal Robins down in a very safe place, and then the climbers proceed from that place using technology to get to the base of the cliff, and then they use their skills. Because as even with all science, the best thing about science is a human's capacity to not only think but to do.
Okay. So I know that you did a ton of research to write this book. And what I've read so far of it, I've found things really believable. And that's really important to me, to keep my interest. You know, I do actually have a science background, and I actually quickly get frustrated with movies where they just get things blatantly wrong. I mean, sometimes you can put your disbelief aside, but if it just amplifies on itself, you just find yourself going, oh, but I didn't find myself doing that with the parts of your book that I've read, and I've had the privilege of reading a little bit more than, you know, what we have on our website. But yeah, you done so much work to get things right in this book. So tell us about the research you've done.
It was a lot. First of all, as I said, you know, Juliana from NASA, and as a geologist, she really helped me form the base of the story. But I also, being a climbing journalist or writer, I actually get to interview the very best, and I've been so fortunate to do that in my short writing life. And one of the things I learnt when you interview great climbers is that they never look backwards, Steph. They're always looking forward. They're always aspirational. They don't look at their shadow. And so the the characters are based on that type of climber. These are the cutting edge, and they're not second guessing. They're using all of their skills to make sure that they can safely proceed forward. And they're not mavericks either. You know, these are, I build that into the story. You actually know their backstory is that they've been around for a long time. They've worked in lots of different places, including with military in the United States and in the mountains as guides. And they've done incredible climbing. And so you've got a really great meshed intelligent and an able bunch of people to complete the mission. And what I've learned is that the characters needed to embody all of those things, and I've really tried to do that, but also make them human. So we also know as climbers ourselves, we do this we do this wonderful thing, but a lot of our friends just think, oh, you're crazy, that's just nuts. But we know it's not nuts because we put in the care, we look out for one another, and our mission is always to come home. These climbers are exactly the same. They're very human, and you're going to get to love them, I hope.
Nice. Well, I mean, characters make or break the story, right? They really are critical to both, what happens in the story, but also who we become emotionally involved with as readers, as audience of the book, and they're what keep us turning the pages. You've got a complex storyline with a lot of characters, but you've got the main characters of the Mars climbing team. So can you just give us a quick rundown of those main Mars climbers?
There's 4. So we've got Conrad and Tyler. They're the climbing party on the Red Curtain, the name of the climb. We've got Hillary and Harry. They're the H team. So they're the ones back on that ship. You always need a strong party to back your climbing party. Anyone who's climbed Everest, K2, or any of the major peaks, there's always a bunch of people behind that, don't get the limelight, but they're there and they've got your back. So those 2 climbers have got their back, as well as the whole NASA team back on Earth. So they're the key characters. And there's some minor ones too, like there's a lot of climbers in the world who get a mention. I won't mention them all, you'll have to get into the book. But 2 that I will is General Carrigan. So he's based after Kim Carrigan in Australia. And I also got Senator Caldwell. And Tommy actually worked with me to develop his part, and we had a lot of fun. And But I really foresee Tommy in a role like this in the near future, and what he does to support the team is wonderful.
Oh God, that's awesome. So, Dawn Wilson from Tucson, Arizona, has a character-related question for us, and you're kind of hinting at some of this with your last response. Did any real-life person inspire your main characters? That, for example, in the prologue in the first chapter, the excerpts that we shared on the Common Climber website, we are introduced to a character named Conrad. Conrad's up in the Himalayas guiding when he gets called to service. So it's hard not to think of Conrad Anker here, but is that who you're basing Conrad off of? And what real life people inspired your main characters there?
Conrad Anker, I love your work. But no, it's not you. But I tell you who it is. I've actually got 2 friends here in Australia. I had an acquired brain injury a couple of years ago, and 2 of the men who came into the hospital and helped rescue me from that terrible time was a man called Paul Pritchard and another man called Conrad Walsborough. Conrad Walsborough is the one who the key character is named after.
Oh, that's neat. So, Adam Harrison out of Bendigo, Australia, wants to know if there's any parts of the book that are based upon your personal experiences, be it climbing, romantically, anything else. What have you taken personally or thrown in personally?
There you go. It's Bendigo.
Bendigo.
No, the difference between Australians and Americans, fun.
Yes.
Look, I'm a climber. I've climbed for 35 years, on and off for 35 years. I've known a lot of people, been to lots of places around the world, and so honestly, as a writer, you write from your own experience. And yes, this is probably the climber I always wanted to be in some of those characters. And so there's a bit of visionary stuff, make-believe stuff from my brain. But you know what? It was so much fun to play with the characters and to put a bit of me into it too. But I had to make sure that like any writer, you've got to consult lots of different people. And I consulted climbers all around the world, and they're included in the story, from Thomas Huber to Lynn Hill, as I said, Kim Carrigan, Paul Pritchard. There's just so many different people who have contributed to make the words that you see come to life on the page and make them believable for a climber particularly. And so from my experience, yes, it's in there, but it's also from their experience that the story comes.
And I just want to note, I know a number of those people, including Tommy Caldwell, have read parts of your book and are excited themselves to read it and have some wonderful endorsements of that. So congratulations on, just these early recognitions that you're receiving on the book. And that's going to lead me to the last couple of questions that we have. Writing the book is only one part of the process. It's a huge part. Obviously, editing is another huge part. And then you're going down the road of self-publishing. So share with us some of the challenges that you've faced in doing this.
I decided to go to self-publish, which is much harder. You have to do all the publicity on your own. But to ensure that I maintain the climbing integrity of the book and the story that I wanted to tell. And I think I've done that. And because of the editing and the 3 editors that I've used, including Peter Zarbrook, thanks, Peter, and my other climbing editors, they've been able to make sure that I've been able to communicate that appropriately and that the story will be a read that climbers will want to explore.
Well, I know, anything new, the new foray is always a big learning curve. I know I'm personally super excited to read your new book. And also super happy to promote it and share it with as many people as we can. I just have to say, I'm familiar with your writing, obviously not only what I've read of the book, the number of numerous contributions that you've done with Common Climber. I really feel like your writing is an 11 on the scale of creativity.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean it. I love reading your writing. And so, with this book, I'm looking forward to it. I want more. And now that it's getting ready to go, getting ready to be released in a month, tell us how our viewers can get a copy of the book. I think you're also going to go on a book tour. So if they want to meet you in person, maybe buy a book, get an autographed copy, fill us in on the next steps, the next immediate steps.
Well, firstly, the climbing media around the world, they have got behind me, and I'm really thankful. I'll just give you a really sneak peek of something little. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, Rock and Ice.
Big magazines who have really worked to play with me on this one, and so it will be. You'll get reviews around the major mags around the planet. Secondly is, I'm really hoping to launch in July, and the first place will be in Sydney, at the Sydney Indoor Climbing Centre, and then after that probably back to Hobart to do one at home with family and friends, and we might venture up to Queensland. There is a festival up there called the Coolum Fest. Hi guys. We'll try to get the book up to there as well. Now, you'll be able to buy it online, so it doesn't matter where you are, and it'll be available in hard copy as well as online. So I'm hoping that because of that, you can have different prices, so it will be accessible for everyone, regardless of where you're at.
And when you say available online, I'm guessing you mean like a digital copy that can be downloaded and read. Okay, that's great. And I know, congratulations on getting the attention with the large climbing magazines. I do want to give a plug for Common Climber because I'm really excited that I know that you sprinkle Common Climber into your book. And I love that. Thank you. I hope we're around in 2043. That would be awesome.
I think you're in it.
Oh, me. Oh, thank you. That's sweet.
People get a prize in this one.
That's cool. Well, I wish you the best of success with your book tour and selling your book, and hope that, you know, people spread the word about this unique climbing story that is going to be coming out.
I hope you really enjoy it. Well, it's I put a lot of effort into it, and I think you're going to be blown away. It's a climbing story for the ages.
Cool. Okay, well, that wraps up our interview with Dave Barnes, climber and author of the new book, The Red Curtain, Climbing Expedition to Mars 2043. Again, Dave is an assistant editor for Common Climber. And yeah, thank you for your time. Please follow Common Climber on Facebook and Instagram to learn more. We will share things as your book comes out. And it's also, please be sure to like this video and follow Common Climber on our YouTube channel. So, take care. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, Steph. See you later.
Thank you, Dave.